Welcome back, listeners, to Red Hunt, where I, Red, embark on a journey to uncover the captivating and sometimes heart-wrenching stories shared by the Reddit relationship community. Entitled Mother-in-Law Can't Believe She Might Need to Pay for Her Own Housing. I just want to vent. I've been with my husband for about 15 years, and we were very low contact with his family for most of it because he couldn't stand them. I probably only met his mom 3 to 4 times, even though we lived in the same city. Well, 2 years ago, we received a call from Adult Protective Services. She was in the hospital after calling 911, and when they went to get her, the apartment she shared with her daughter, who was also an entitled piece of shit, a whole other story, was in such bad condition that they didn't want to release her back there. I'm sure they were happy to find someone else to take her, so we almost didn't even question whether there were other options, and we agreed to take her. We moved her in. It's been a nightmare. She's very entitled and narcissistic. She doesn't have much income because she hardly ever worked, so it's pretty measly Social Security. She spends about half her monthly income on cigarettes. We hate smelling it all the time. She does smoke outside, luckily. When we first got her and she was pretty frail and it was winter, we let her smoke in the garage, which was a huge mistake and turned into a giant tantrum when we finally put a stop to it. Luckily for her, she gets Medicare fully paid for by the state and receives some food stamps, but we don't charge her anything. She's a total slob, has probably taken 5 to 6 showers in 2 years, and we really resent having her here now. She never cleans up after herself, makes noise constantly, and frequently acts like a child and throws tantrums. For instance, she ran out of a chocolate muffin she likes but still had cake and other snacks. She huffed and slammed the pantry and said, "I guess I'll just have to go without, as usual." We make sure she gets all her medications, gets food even if her food stamps run out, and drive her to all medical appointments. Some are 90 miles away and take 4 hours. But yeah, she goes without. I wish we would have tried to find an alternative earlier, but we finally are trying. Today I took her to meet with a social worker about Section 8 housing. She made it off the waiting list, and we're waiting to see how much she might get and whether we can find her a studio or something. The lady explained that she would have to pay 30–40% of her income toward the rent. Mother-in-law started complaining about it immediately, how they were going to take all her money. I'm just sitting here like, why shouldn't you have to pay something toward your own basic needs such as housing when you live in my house for free? What the heck? Living with your entitled and narcissistic mother-in-law sounds like an absolute nightmare, especially considering her lack of cleanliness, constant tantrums, and overall childish behavior. It's definitely time to find her an alternative living arrangement, and it's completely justified for her to contribute financially towards her basic needs, like housing, considering she's currently living in your house for free. Am I the antagonist for telling my family they don't get a say on my child's name, and I do not want my child's name to blend in with theirs? My husband and I, both 25 years old, are expecting a baby together. I'm having some trouble with my family over the name. Background: I have a different mother than my siblings. My parents had me, and my mother chose my name. It's not a typical name. It's a nature name, just like my mom's, but not one of the usual names like Lily or Rose. According to my dad, my parents argued about my name, and ultimately my mom chose my first name while my dad chose my middle name. My parents' marriage wasn't great, and when my mom passed away when I was 5, my dad had already met my stepmom Jane. After my dad and Jane moved in together, they asked me if I would prefer to be called by my middle name, Claire, instead of my first name, Acacia Dawny. I declined, and although my dad was a little upset, they dropped the issue. My dad and Jane had more aligned naming preferences, and my siblings' names are more traditional, such as Elizabeth, James, Hannah, Michael, etc. People would often comment on my name, and I proudly told them that my mom had named me. This wasn't easy for Jane to hear, and my family didn't appreciate it. I love my family, but I was always proud to have been named by my mom and didn't mind standing out. I never wanted to be more like them or blend in better. It was a special connection to my mom that I cherished. When I was younger, I used to talk about continuing with nature-themed and less common names when I had children. Based on that, my family questioned if we planned to do the same when we announced that I was pregnant. We do have that plan, but we didn't share it with them. Instead, we told them we would discuss names and announce our decision after the baby is born. My family started suggesting names. Jane made suggestions that she believed were darling and would fit in so well with the family. I politely told them that we didn't need any suggestions and asked them to stop. The topic gained more attention when discussions about the baby shower and its planning came up. They expressed their belief that we should consider their thoughts, and my dad even suggested that I avoid making my baby's name stand out among theirs, like mine did. My siblings also wanted me to consider Jane's feelings, given that she has raised me for years, while I celebrated being named by my mom. I reached my breaking point and told them that they don't get a say in my baby's name, and that I don't want my child's name to blend in with theirs. I explained that it doesn't matter as much as they think it does. The way they are framing it feels like they are asking me to choose between them and my mom, or more accurately, between Jane and my mom. They accused me of callously dismissing their feelings, disregarding what this means to them, and the message I'm sending to others. They believe that I initiated this years ago by expressing my desire to name my children the way my mom named me. Am I the one in the wrong here? It's completely unfair for your family to pressure you into choosing a name that fits their expectations, especially considering the sentimental connection you have with your mom and the importance of honoring her memory. You have every right to choose a unique name that holds personal significance for you and your husband. Am I the antagonist for scolding my 12-year-old sister and telling her that I hope she can be more understanding when she's older? This was a difficult conversation to have with my sister Lacey, who was 12 years old, but one that had been looming for a while. When Lacey was just 3 months old, our mother passed away. At that time, I was 8 years old. Lacey has no memories of our mother as she was under 2 years old when our father remarried and his second wife became her mother. When Lacey turned 4, she was officially adopted by our dad's wife. I was also offered the opportunity to be adopted, but I declined. My dad and his wife took me to therapy, including sessions with a psychiatrist, concerned that my rejection of having another mother in my life might stem from mental illness. They even went as far as attempting to pursue the adoption against my wishes and what the therapist recommended. However, the judge denied the adoption and instead advised my dad and his wife to seek grief therapy for me. Life became difficult with them afterward. Lacey was happy and thriving in her new family, but we never got past the episode of trying to force the adoption upon me. I also disliked how they discouraged me from mentioning our mom around Lacey and attempted to prevent her from entering my room, where I had photos of our mom. Nevertheless, Lacey still sought me out and saw the pictures regardless. Over the years, Lacey has tried to refer to her mom as our mom and has questioned why I was not adopted. Lacey is aware that she is adopted and that our mom is her biological mother, but she lacks any emotional attachment to her. For her, our mom is just someone she hears about occasionally and has seen a few pictures of from when I lived at home. I have always tried to explain to Lacey, in a manner suitable for her age, that I simply did not want to be adopted. However, as she grows older, she challenges my explanations more. She has said to me that it upsets her mom that I won't allow her to adopt me as well. During a recent weekend when Lacey was staying with me, the first day went well. However, on the second day, she expressed a desire for us to be real siblings, believing that it wouldn't be genuine unless we had the same parents. I reassured her that regardless of our legal parents, we will always be siblings and that I will always love her. Despite this, she expressed her dissatisfaction, claiming that I prioritize our mom over her own mom. According to her, our mom matters even more to me because I also refuse to be adopted for her. She told me that our mom is no longer relevant and that we have a real mom, a good mom, and that I ruined everything by saying no. All of this hurt me deeply. I didn't want to be too harsh with her since she's still young and I'm a 20-year-old guy, so I gently scolded her for saying hurtful things and told her that it wasn't her place to pressure me. I hoped that she would grow to understand my perspective as she gets older. However, she was upset, and when she returned to her parents, they criticized me for upsetting her and not showing more empathy, considering she's just a child. So, am I the one in the wrong here? It's understandable that you didn't want to be adopted and that you have a strong connection to your biological mother. You handled the situation with your sister in a gentle and appropriate manner, and her parents should be more understanding of your feelings as well. A girl is threatening to blow up my boyfriend and I's life by telling him something he already knows. I'm incredibly angry right now. I've been in a relationship with Eric for 5 years. The only reason we haven't gotten married is because he has been dealing with serious kidney issues. Fortunately, he is scheduled to receive a transplant this month from a cousin who is a match. I also have a close friend named John. We met in college before I knew Eric. We had a one-night stand when we were both young and single, but it made it clear that we were not compatible. Since that night, John and I have been nothing more than platonic friends. There is no chance of us getting involved again. Eric knows about this. We didn't share it with many people, but I told Eric before introducing him to John when we started dating. It was a bit awkward, but they have become good friends over the years and even hang out without me. Now on to Fiona. Fiona is my little sister's best friend and often hangs out with our group because of that. She likes to stir up trouble. A couple of weeks ago, my sister casually mentioned the John situation to Fiona, thinking it was a funny story. However, Fiona misunderstood and now believes that I cheated on Eric with John and that Eric is unaware of it. I found out about Fiona's belief when she sent me a long text accusing me and threatening to reveal the truth if I don't confess to Eric within 2 weeks. After sending the message, she blocked me on all social media platforms. I've been trying to reach out to her and explain that it's a misunderstanding, but she won't listen or engage with me. Even when John attempted to talk to her, she disregarded him as well. It's an incredibly frustrating and absurd situation. I don't know what to do. My priority is to prevent Eric from finding out about this. The last thing he needs before his surgery is to be dragged into unnecessary drama, especially with his conservative family. He knows the truth, but he prefers to keep it private, and it would be embarrassing for him. He needs rest and minimal stress right now. I've even tried involving John to talk to Fiona, but she refuses to listen. I've never encountered such irrational behavior before. Please, someone advise me on what I should do. First of all, take a deep breath and try to stay calm. It sounds like Fiona is just stirring up unnecessary drama and causing trouble. Maybe give it some time and see if she cools off, or try reaching out to her through a different medium if possible, like email or a mutual friend, to clear things up. Just focus on supporting your boyfriend through his transplant, and try not to let this drama consume you. Am I the antagonist for asking my husband to take care of his sick children? My husband and I have a total of 4 children, 2 each from previous relationships. It bothers me that his ex-wife constantly asks for favors or changes to the custody agreement, and he always agrees to accommodate her requests. Recently, she had a week-long trip planned during her scheduled time with the kids. She asked if we could keep them, and we agreed. However, when the time came to pick them up, my husband had to drive an hour to meet her because she refuses to come to our home. According to their legal agreement, they are supposed to meet halfway, but I believe that in special circumstances or when doing favors, she should at least bring the kids or pick them up. Her home is over an hour away, yet my husband always makes the full trip to accommodate her. When the younger kids, aged 8 and 7, arrived on Sunday, the 8-year-old was sick with a high fever and cough. Thankfully, I work for a company that allows me to bring kids to work if needed, so both of them came to work with me on Monday and Tuesday. The 7-year-old also developed a fever. On Wednesday morning, my husband took them to the doctor, and in the afternoon, my mom watched over them. On Thursday, they came to my office again. Throughout all of this, I'm still taking care of our older 2 children, taking them to school, and managing everything. I must admit, they are well-behaved kids and are great at the office, but it adds extra stress and responsibility during the day. However, I volunteered to do it because I love them. On Thursday evening, his ex texted that she would be back on Friday and wanted my husband to meet her with the kids on our scheduled weekend. He explained that he had an early morning meeting, and they could meet super early or in the afternoon evening. She was fine with waiting until then. It takes about 30 minutes for her to drive to my office. I became upset when my husband refused to ask her to relieve me at work, especially since she had nothing else to do that day. Finally, I told him that he needed to inform his boss about his kids being sick all week and going to work with me, and it was his turn to take over. He did exactly that. He missed his early morning meeting, as he often does when it's convenient for him, and he drove the kids back to their mother as she wanted. Am I wrong for insisting on this after such a long week? It's completely understandable that you reached your breaking point after taking care of the kids while working all week, and asking your husband to step in and help was the right thing to do. It's important for both parents to share responsibilities, especially when it comes to taking care of sick children. Am I the antagonist for not telling my cousin that his sister planned to leave the majority of her estate to me when she passed? I, a 61-year-old woman, lost my cousin Brenda, who was 60 years old in November. Our mothers were identical twins and had a very close relationship. Brenda and I were more like sisters than cousins. Brenda never got married or had children. Her brother Ben and his husband John lived in a city 2 hours away from our small town, but they rarely visited. Although Brenda and Ben were close in the past, Brenda developed a strong dislike for John. She felt that he was conniving and dominating, especially with Ben. She believed that John pursued Ben for his money and overstepped his boundaries when it came to family and estate matters, especially when my uncle was terminally ill in 2009. After my aunt passed away in 2005, Ben took jewelry from her jewelry box without permission. He argued that he had given those items to her years ago and felt entitled to them. This caused a fallout, and he was eventually forced to return the jewelry. Initially, he was supposed to serve as the executor of my uncle's will. However, my uncle became concerned about the will that Ben had drawn up and had Brenda sign. At one point, he told Brenda, "I see I need to make some changes here before you end up on the street." As a result, my uncle created a new will that named both Ben and Brenda as co-executors and divided the estate equally between them. Ben was unaware of this change until after my uncle passed away. He was enraged when he discovered it. This led to a heated argument where Ben referred to Brenda as a freeloader because she still lived at home, even though she split expenses with their parents and served as their primary caregiver in their final years. Ben had minimal involvement in their care. As a result of their argument, Brenda had to buy Ben's half of the house in order to continue living there, and the estate was settled. Afterward, Brenda informed me and several other family members that she wanted me to be the executor of her will. Brenda was known for procrastinating, and she often discussed her wishes without taking action. Last spring, when she asked about the process again, I suggested that she discuss it with a paralegal we both knew who would be attending our July 4th party. That day, Brenda dictated her wishes to the paralegal, who then compiled the will on her laptop, with the plan to email it to me so I could print and give it to Brenda since she didn't own a computer. She always told me that I would receive her jewelry as the closest female relative, but she also informed me that she wanted to leave her house and half of her money to me, with the rest going to Ben. She was adamant about not wanting John to inherit her home. We didn't discuss the will again until September when Brenda told me that she was waiting for the transfer upon death deed to be processed so that she could sign everything together. Unfortunately, she passed away before this could be completed. Ben found Brenda's unsigned will in her house, and when I mentioned it to him, he became furious. He accused me of planting the will in her house on the day she died, and said that I had offended his soul. Ultimately, he disregarded all of Brenda's wishes. He cleared out and listed her house within 6 weeks, kept all of her money, and distributed her jewelry to others. I felt like they had unresolved issues, and I was caught in the middle, left to deal with the consequences. Wow, what a mess. It sounds like there was a lot of tension and animosity between Brenda, Ben, and John, especially regarding the family estate. It's really unfortunate and unfair that Ben didn't honor Brenda's wishes and instead did his own thing. Thanks for watching. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications so you never miss a video. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist in the description.